The year is 1952. Ford would produce an all-new inline six to replace its flathead six. Yes, you heard that correct. Ford made a flathead six. The new engine had overhead valve, which is where the industry was going. Marketed as the Mileage Maker 6 or the Cost Clipper 6, Ford was also able to shave some weight off of the new engine design. The L-head unit weighed 527 pounds to the new overhead valve design weighing 502 pounds. The engine block of the Mileage Maker 6 was also smaller, coming in at a displacement of 215 cubic inch displacement versus the L-Head's 225.9. Bore spacing of the engine was uniformed with no wasted water space between the bores. This engine was designed with 7 main bearings in mind, but they would only use 4 main bearings. But they could add 3 if they ever felt like they needed to, without changing the bore spacing. The crankcase extended well below the crankshaft centerline, which provides rigidity to the crankshaft main bearings. Introduced in 1952, 215 cubic inch displacement overhead valve inline 6, 3.5 liters. It's good for 101 to 105 horsepower at 3,500 RPM. 186 pound-feet or 252 newton meters at 1500 RPM with a bore of 3.56 inches and a stroke of 3.6 inches. Compression is 7.1. 4 main bearings. The years this engine was used was 1952 through 1953. It could be found in just about everything Ford produced in those 2 years, the Ford F-Series trucks, as well as Ford's model line cars and wagons. In 1954, the 215 was bored 3.625 inches, bringing displacement to 223 cubic inch displacement overhead valve inline 6, 3.7 liters. It's good for anywhere between 115 to 145 horsepower, 4,200 RPM, making up to 206 pound-feet or 279 newton meters at 2,200 RPM with a bore of 3.625 inches and a stroke of 3.6 inches. Compression is 8.6 to 1. Years this engine was used was between 1954 through 1964, and it could be found in just about everything from the F-Series trucks, wagons, Fairlane, Galaxy, you name it, it could be found in it. Ford would bore and stroke the 223 in 1961, bringing displacement up to 262 cubic inch displacement overhead valve inline 6, 4.3 liters. It's good for 152 horsepower at 4,000 RPM, estimated 236 pound-feet or 321 newton meters at 1,800 RPM, with a bore of 3.718 inches and a stroke of 4.03 inches. Compression is 8 to 1. Years this engine was used was from 1961 through 1964 and could be found in the Ford F-Series trucks. Not shared in the intro, this engine has a major Achilles heel. This engine shares the same oiling system that the Ford Y-Block used. So consequently, it suffered from the same top-end oiling issues that the Y-Block engine had, which Ford would seek to make an all-new design that didn't have oiling issue problems. Ford would produce an all-new inline 6 in 1960. The new 6 would have an even smaller displacement, starting at 144 cubic inch displacement, going to 250 during its lifespan. It was called the Falcon 6 or the Thrift Power 6, but as they say, that's another engine episode for another day. All right, now it's time for Would You Rather, but before we do that, I have to apologize to you guys. My voice is shot, if you can't tell. I came down with some sort of allergy or something like that, and I've been trying to post videos, but today was probably the best day. Anyway, I just wanted to explain why my voice doesn't sound the way that it does. Anyway, now it's time for Would You Rather. 2 scenarios today. In the first scenario, would you rather have a 1952 Ford Crestline or 1955 Ford Fairlane or 1959 Ford Fairlane. I'm going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. On to the second scenario. All wagons. Not really. 1954 Ford wagon. Or 1952 Ford F1. Or 1958 Ford wagon. Once again, going to leave this here for a minute. If you need more time, feel free, pause the video. Now it's time for Name That Tune. First person to give both the name of the band and the song title correctly in the comment section will have their comment pinned to the top of it. Thank you all so much for coming out and watching this. Until next time, toodaloo!